In certain regards, video games of the past were far superior to modern video games. Even though we have all this technology, all these graphics and everything, video games of the past had superior qualities. Let's get into this. Greetings, I am Tipit, and I sincerely believe that a lot of modern video games have totally lost what it means to be a video game. Their focus is oftentimes on things that are absolutely uninteresting on the long run and do not actually create an interested audience, but it does give the gamer just a little bit of satisfaction, at least for the first few hours, and then not interested. Let's examine older video games and let's see what they actually had to offer. Let's examine, for instance, Battlefield 1942. Yes, that game that was released so long ago. It's nearing its 15th birthday. This game had its full focus on the objectives. When you spawned in, you could only select from a few different weapons and a few different classes. The focus was on getting your vehicle and get to the objective, cap that objective, then defend it, or go for the next. Then get to the next objective after that, and kill people on the way. That was the full focus of the game. You were not getting nebulous rewards every time you did anything. You would get more points for doing harder tasks. If you would capture the enemy flag and bring it all the way back to your own base, you would get a lot of points for that, and good reasons. That was a very difficult task. But you wouldn't get rewards just for doing simple things. If you were using a tank to kill somebody, you wouldn't get an extra emblem just because you used your tank to shoot somebody. You would just get a normal, regular point. You got somebody off the field, there you go, 1 point. When you would kill somebody with your weapon, there you go, 1 point. It wouldn't matter if it was a headshot or not, but headshots oftentimes permitted you to kill the enemy faster. Therefore, you wanted to shoot people in the head, but not because the game gave you something special. Now let's compare that to the next game of the line. Battlefield 2 had a little bit more diversity, and it was at this point where they introduced something which I thought was really cool, but to be honest, I think it might have started to be the downfall of modern shooters. It introduced a player profile, where you could look at your stats and see everything you had gathered. The weapons you could get were highly would take a long time to get, and when you would get them, they oftentimes weren't much superior to the weapons you would already have. Oftentimes, higher ranked players would still use the standard M16 and AK-47, although they had unlocked everything else. Having weapons wasn't the goal. You were not trying to get points in that match. Your goal was not to be the top player just to be able to have the most points and just get out with a new emblem. That was not the objective. Yes, you could get awards, and yes, oftentimes it was very fun to get an award, but the reason is that you weren't spammed with awards. You weren't given an award for every single action you were doing. You would get awards for things that were noteworthy. For instance, getting top place in a match, especially when we're talking about a 32 or 64 player match, that is pretty good. Being the top player, that is pretty awesome. Or when you do something pretty good, like capture a flag or something, that is a pretty awesome thing. You would get awards, and that was noteworthy. Now that we've looked at this, let's compare this to the next game in the line, Battlefield 2. Now this game started doing something that I don't think is as good for the overall game. It started giving you awards for a lot of little things. You would do this thing, you would get an award. If you would repair a tank 5 times, you would get an award. Although this was also implemented in Battlefield 2. You would do this thing, you would get an award. And it was very satisfying, but I believe that this started the downfall of the modern shooter era. The games were starting to focus more and more on how to make the player happy, instead of telling the player, do something that deserves it, then we're going to give you an award for it. Or even less than that, just say, do what you're supposed to, and if you win, that's going to be your reward, as I think sometimes should be. This game was oftentimes considered by both the best of the Battlefield series. And I agree, the art style was great, but the focus was not on the art, the focus was on the gameplay. The game was very rapid, and you had multiple vehicles, but the gameplay was focused on killing people. You were not focused on trying to get a new skin for your new weapon. That was not the ultimate focus. Nowadays, in modern shooters, let's just take Battlefield 4, yes, let's just take that. Battlefield 4 has hundreds of weapons. For every single class, you have so many different weapons to choose from. And for instance, in the sniper class, almost all the weapons are identical in statistics. They have a little bit different looks, and that's about it. If you look at the stats, they basically are identical for a lot of the weapons. They just look different. And for each single weapon, you can unlock a ton of different skins. But how is that interesting? Why would I care about something that just adds aesthetic value to my weapon? Yes, it's an interesting add-on, but it's just adding on to add on, so that the game can say, hey, we have over beep amount of skins to put on weapons, on vehicles, on characters, on everything. That is not where the game should be. That is not the focus of what a first-person shooter should be. The first-person shooter should be focused on the objective and killing people. That is where it should be at. Battlefield 4 was also able to easily boast having the largest maps of any Battlefield ever. Yet, how useful is that when most of the maps that were very large had huge regions of open, empty, uninteresting space that really added nothing strategic or interesting to the game? Even Battlefield 2, that had sometimes some very large open spaces, had them in a strategic manner. If the team of the US could breach the large open area of Strike at Jalalabad, Road to Jalalabad, you were able to oftentimes steamroll the rest of the map. But if you got stuck at that one gap spot, the team would hold you pinned down for the rest of the game and win. Therefore, that one open area was the most critical point of the entire map. Oftentimes, having teams of 32-32 lined up all across that on both sides, holding that objective. If you were able to go through and tap an objective behind the enemy, you would basically throw the whole enemy's team apart and almost win the game single-handedly if you were able to survive. That was where the objective was. It was on the flags. It was on the killing. It was on the overall team win. Nowadays, with games like Black Ops 3, where you basically get an award for killing somebody if they were in the air. You get an award if somebody was wall running and you shot them. You get an award for just about doing anything in the game. Oh, you got 2 players down in a very short period of time? Boom, we give you a double kill award. This is not where the game should be. The game should be, you got 18 kills without dying. Get an award. Yes, there are awards for that type of thing, but they're buried under the awards that you get for just about everything else. You get so many awards that it stops being interesting and just starts being needless clutter in your space, in your face. I get awards and I don't even think of them unless they are really valuable. The rest of them, I couldn't care less. I don't care how many one-shot, one-kills I've gotten. Yes, I have hundreds, maybe even thousands at this point, but I don't care. That is not interesting. What I care about is how many nukes I've gotten. What I care is how many huge streaks I've gotten. How many times I've done an ultra kill. Those are interesting things. But instead, the game focuses on, here, you did something good. Or, well, feel good about yourself because you got a kill. There you go. Happy. Many players of Black Ops 3 seem to just continue playing the game out of habit, not out of pleasure. Personally, I know that this affects me also. When I come back home, the only thing you can think of is, I want to play Black Ops 3. Do I have fun? Most of the time, I'm just raging. Do I actually enjoy the game? Besides if I really wreck the enemy team or I play with friends, no, I don't enjoy the game. I really don't. But why do I do it? Out of habit. Modern shooters have developed a style of mobile games where it's about keeping the player addicted instead of keeping the player entertained. Guys, I hope you see what I'm talking about, where games focus more on their looks, on how to reward the player, instead of actually making the game interesting. Gimmicky things like being able to fly, or being able to jump things, or being able to use a special gadget that makes you almost teleport, those are not interesting. The game should stay focused on the objective, which is killing people. That is one of the big reasons why Special Operations of Battlefield 2 was a flop. Yes, it was a DLC you had to buy, but besides that, a lot of the weaponry and a lot of the extra gadgets were gimmicky, not actually very interesting. And that's what I believe is killing the modern FPS industry. Guys, I need to know what you think, because this is something that I hold at heart, and I hope many other people see this also. Older games were not perfect, for sure, but modern games are straying away from what really makes a shooter, and are heading towards more how they can make more money and get more get more buys out of their supply drops. Thanks guys for listening. Have a good one, and please leave a like if you agree with this. Share also, of course.